Hi, everybody. Doug and Aleya here for another session. And in this session, what we want to talk about is how to deal with people in your life who are suffering. They're distressed, they're sad, maybe they're in physical pain, maybe they're in their last journey of life, they're starting to die. And of course, this is distressing for everybody around this person. But how do you go about managing your own emotions around this difficult time where you're dealing with somebody in distress or dying? And then how do you manage their emotions? And what are some of the things that you can do to help yourself and to help them?
And or a child.
Yes.
Right? Like there are children, your children, regardless of their age, whether they're really young or teenagers or in their 20s and they're having a really challenging time. So anytime you're in the presence of somebody that you really do love, you care about them, and they're challenged, it's challenging for you. And how do you navigate that? Doug, do you want to kind of dive in and just sort of map out what's going on, and then I'll bring in my perspective?
Yes. So the first thing to recognize is that when any human being is distressed, there's going to be a lot of emotion. And the distressed person is obviously emotional because that person may be in pain or angry or upset or sad or grief-stricken or feeling like the world is unjust, and they're not in a happy place. And so of course they are going to be emotional. And that emotion triggers emotions in people around them, especially caregivers and close relatives, because most people don't have the ability to be emotionally self-aware and emotionally self-regulate and to practice cognitive and affective empathy. So the emotions of this distressed person creates anxiety and distress in the people around them. And if you're one of those people, you're going to naturally feel anxiety and upset over this other person's distress. And so learning how to recognize it and manage it is a really important and powerful skill. So let's talk about the basics. As we have taught before, the basics of managing emotion is to recognize the emotion first. So if you have a distressed child, let's say, the first thing that you want to do is start isolating inside yourself, what emotions am I experiencing? And it's going to be anxiety and concern and worry. It might be sadness and grief. It might be upset. It might be a sense of being unsupported. It could be any number of emotions, and could be anger and frustration as well.
And just to clarify, these are the emotions that the person, the caregiver, is experiencing when they're in the presence of someone who is highly emotional.
That's right. Now, how do you recognize these emotions? I teach a process of structuring emotions as data. And so there are 6 layers of emotions, negative emotions, that help you categorize or chunk whatever it is you're experiencing. And you've got fear emotions, you've got disrespect emotions, you've got anger emotions, you've got sadness emotions, you've got shame, humiliation emotions, and you've got abandonment. So it goes anger, disrespect, fear, shame, humiliation, sadness and grief, abandonment, betrayal, and feeling unloved and unlovable.
Rejected.
Yeah, those are the 6 layers. So the first thing you want to do is think about, all right, of those layers, what am I feeling right now? What emotion am I feeling, and what layer can I plug it into? Maybe you're angry or frustrated. Maybe you're sad. Maybe you feel unsupported or unappreciated. Maybe you feel sadness or grief. Maybe you feel shame. It doesn't matter. What you want to do is identify what layer is most dominant and just say to yourself, I feel sad. I feel really frustrated. I'm angry that this person is not feeling well and I have to care for them. I feel really unsupported and unappreciated. And you literally say that to yourself with an I am statement. Because the science shows that when you label your emotions, you quiet the emotional centers of your brain and you activate the executive function in your brain and your prefrontal cortex. And it has a really amazing effect of calming you down. So that's the first practice you want to cultivate.
Because if you're not calm, you can't help another.
That's right. As long as you're escalated emotionally, then you're worthless to yourself and you're worthless to everybody else. The second skill you want to cultivate is turning that concept of listening to and reflecting emotions onto the person who's distressed. It could be a child, it could be an adult. And all you want to do is label the emotional experience that they have in the moment that you're with them. Now, this emotional experience can obviously vary from moment to moment, but again, you're going to use those 6 layers. Is this person angry? Does this person feel ignored? Is there fear or anxiety? Are they worried or concerned? Is there any kind of shame, humiliation, embarrassment, or guilt? Sadness, grief, depression, upset, distress? Obviously, there will be. Does this person feel like he or she's been abandoned, or isn't loved, or feels worthless? So those are the basic categories of emotions. And again, all you're going to do is use a simple use statement and say, oh, you're really frustrated. You're really in a lot of distress. You're in a lot of pain, and it makes you sad, and you're anxious, and you don't have any control over anything. And it's just all overwhelming for you. And you label them until they relax. This usually takes about 90 seconds. And you'll see them, yes, and they'll just relax on you. And once you've done that, you've got their emotions for the time being under control. Now, obviously, if this is a long-term chronic condition, then you're going to be doing this a lot. But you can alleviate the emotional stress by simply labeling those emotions over and over and over again. Watch for the relaxation response, and then you're done for the time being. So those are the 2 ways that you manage emotions around other people who are in physical or mental or emotional distress. Take care of yourself first by labeling your own emotions using an I statement. Take care of their emotions by using a you statement and labeling their emotional experience until they relax.
So that skill set is essential. Doug and I use it every day. I use it in my practice every single day. I use it with my own self, and it's incredibly powerful. And I'm going to bring in another layer that has an energetic component, and recognizing that our body feels lots of emotions. And when we're younger, when we're children or teenagers or even in our 20s, we're going through huge maturation moments. And so the body will actually be more emotional when we're younger, and then also possibly more emotion as we get closer to our transition. So if we have a year left in our life, 5 years left, or 10 years left, the body actually might start to process lots of emotions. And so I'm not saying that we don't have emotions when we're midstream, but emotions, we want to start thinking about emotions as a vibrational experience that takes our energy through a transformation. It's an alchemical process, and it changes the vibration of the cells. It changes the consciousness. It changes the energy, the beliefs, the behaviors, the thought forms, the emotions. But we actually are using the emotions as fuel for transformation. And so when you are witnessing another person or even yourself experiencing big emotions, we immediately, from my energetic perspective, want to create a really safe container. And you could even hold your hands out as a way of, I'm holding a really safe and loving space for you to be in this process. You don't need to say that out loud, but it might be just your way of saying, oh, I'm creating this energetic safe space in some dimension, encircling you with angelic beings of love and light. You might put your hand on your heart, just holding a really safe space, or just one hand on the heart, reminding yourself that your job, when you're in the presence of someone who is having big emotions, because they're using these emotions to go through a process, maybe to clear, to release, to mature, they need a safe container, and that safe container can't budge. We don't want that safe container to move one bit. And when somebody's in big emotions, they might actually kick at the container. Is the container solid? Am I truly safe going through this huge emotional vibrational process? If you can hold that really safe container, i.e. not fixing, not judging, not shaming, you've already validated your own emotions, which just now put you into a neutral place, you can hold this incredibly safe container for them to have their vibrational, energetic, emotional experience and go through. a beautiful transformation, messy at first, but they will come through it. And there's actually 3 stages that Doug and I have talked about in a previous YouTube with emotion, the emotional development. So regardless of where somebody is in their process, in their stage of life, number 1, hold a safe container. Well, number 1, put yourself in your own safe container, label your own emotions being in the experience till you get to a place of neutrality, then create a safe container for this person energetically with your intent, your heart, your hands, and then encourage them to actually go into their emotional process using those emotions like waves of energy that change the vibration of the body, that helps the body go through a moment of maturation. There's lots of reasons why we have emotions. There's lots of story that we can go into, possibly needs that we need, but this is the basics of starting with safe container, labeling the emotions of yourself and another, and see what happens. And we'll check in with you in a few weeks and go to step 2.